Hello, and welcome to Insurance Agents Talk Shop. I'm your host, Doug Coombs, Chief Marketing Officer at SIAA. Today's episode is What's in a Brand, Part 2. SIAA has long talked about the importance of evolving, and now they are visually reflecting that importance. That's right, SIAA has rebranded. A new look, a new feel, but the same commitment to evolving the independent agency distribution channel. But why rebrand? What does this mean for SIAA and its stakeholders? And most importantly, what does it say about SIAA as it charts its course for the future? Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Matt Masiello, CEO, Chief Executive Officer of SIAA, who will give us an insider's perspective on the significant change and what we can expect from SIAA moving forward. Matt, thanks for joining me today.
Doug, thank you for having me, and I am excited. This is one of my favorite topics for initiatives that we're working on right now.
That's great to hear. But can you first tell us about the reasoning that SIAA decided to go through a rebranding process?
Yeah, and it requires a little introspectiveness to look at going through a rebranding process. And for us, it was taking a look at our overall organization and our business model. We've been around for a long time. The model started in the 80s in New England. SIAA became a national organization in the early to mid 90s. We've been in the news. We work with thousands of agencies. We're collectively, the largest premium writer with a lot of the carriers that we do business with. And what we determined is, from a brand standpoint, we were stale. And so, it's sort of an interesting process to go through about how we change that. And it started with, like a lot of businesses, especially in the insurance industry, we were facing perpetuation challenges a couple of years ago. And we solved that about a little bit over 2 years ago. And since then, we started investing really heavily into the business, into moving the business into a sort of forward-thinking business model. And while our core hasn't changed within the organization, the evolution of our business, how we execute, it's now completely different. And I like to refer to our old brand, or our I guess at this point, it's still our current brand, as big, old, and bold. And it doesn't represent, who we are today, what we've accomplished in the last 2 years, and where we're heading. And so as an organization, when we think about that we're evolved and we're continuing to evolve, we're a different organization, it's really hard to go to market with a product that's still in the same package, even though you've invested to change it. So that's what's really brought us around to doing the rebranding.
So Matt, as you talk about that and the fact that your brand was getting stale, do you see this as kind of a proactive approach to your identity? And I'm following up on this because let's face it, you're the largest network in the country, and you refer to a stale brand. What is this something that you're looking forward? How does that tie?
Yeah, this was sort of an extremely proactive initiative for us. And, we've got a lot of sort of balls in the air as an organization. And like I said, we've changed a lot over the last 2+ years, but we have a lot of exciting things going on in the future as well. And like I said, it's hard to go out with the same package and say, hey, look, we're a different organization. And so, the investment that we've made, we need to change our messaging. We need to change what we're saying. We need to share with everybody that the new brand is sort of a launching off point of an organization that's really moving forward much differently than maybe how we operated or executed in the past.
Understood. So given that, what were the biggest challenges during the process of getting here?
Yeah. So, there's the adage that we've all used over our careers that change is hard. What I think we've all collectively learned going through this process is messaging a change is hard. It's sort of like saying, hey, I'm a different person. And so, we wanted a new brand that was going to represent how we've evolved and then also represent where we're going. And all too often, brand changes are viewed from the outside as just a new look and new colors. And so the hardest part for us is how do we sort of move forward with a change of a brand to show that it's more than just a new logo and new colors, that it's not just a new wrapper on the product. that we have. And so we made sure that as we went through this process, our change management and messaging the change started on the inside. It started with our folks here at SIAA and all of the folks in our master agencies. And then as we evolved the business and as we started to talk about the brand and the messaging change, we worked our way outside. And so, we can continue to tell our story, especially about where we're heading, but also the brand change. What we've realized doesn't ultimately, like, people aren't going to wake up and see that SI's got a new color scheme and a new logo and say, wow, they've changed. Ultimately, for us to walk the walk and talk the talk in the coming months, in the coming years, will be sort of the proof in the pudding, if you will, to show people that we do business with that it's more than a new look. We're a new culture. We have new goals. We have new leadership across the organization. We have new initiatives, and they're all leading us to both the evolution that we've gone through in the last couple of years, but also that we're going to continue to be an evolving business moving forward.
See, so if I read between the lines there, there's a lot more to this process, and there's a lot more meaning in terms of what you're trying to convey through this brand transition. Is there a way that you see this reflecting SIA's mission and commitment?
Yeah, we as an organization have to always be focused on our core deliverables, right? We've been around for a long time. We've helped a lot of people and businesses be successful in this industry. So you can never lose sight, as a business that's going through a fundamental change. You can never lose sight of what got you where you are, and so we continue to be really focused on the core deliverables. Market access and enhanced compensation, or the highest revenue available to agencies in the industry, and agency development services. But the big thing for us is the brand also needs to reflect on the work we've done over the last 2 years, but more importantly, where we're heading. And so one of the questions I get quite a bit, sort of around mission and commitment in the new brand is, hey, what's different at SIAA? And I sort of, have, a handful of things that are really different other than what we've always executed on. And one is that we're a people first business. We have realized that even as something as simple as our mission statement now is that we make a difference in people's lives by helping them build successful careers and businesses. It's no longer about helping insurance agencies or helping insurance companies or, profit or bottom line. It's about people. If we can help people be successful in their career and their business, then those other things will happen as well. A couple of the other changes sort of in the mission and the commitment for us really is around the evolution of the independent agency distribution channel. We have made the conscious effort or position that we will no longer, or we will not be spectators or passengers in the rapidly changing independent agency distribution system. We do business with 5,000 agencies. We have $12.5 billion of premium. We do business with the largest and the best carriers as our partners in the industry. And we have the ability to be change leaders, if you will, in the industry. So we've become more involved and more aggressive in the technology space. We continue to hold our IA Evolve event, really helping agencies understand what the agencies of the future are going to look like, whether it's operations or it's the digitization of their business across marketing, operations, sales, and service. Again, not looking around to see what other people are doing, but being proactive in what other people are doing and sharing that across our agency and our distribution system. We've been invited into and are now proactively participating in our insurance company partners, our strategic partners, innovation hubs, and their technology centers. I think traditionally a lot of people in the industry have said the carriers will figure it out. And what we're hearing now from the carriers is they don't have the answers. They would like to collaborate with their leaders across distribution to understand what the solutions are going to be to the challenges that we're facing, whether it's around technology or the changing consumer or interface or interactions or APIs or any of those types of things. And then, I think the other piece that we've done is we have sort of planted our flag in our commitment to use data. And so using the data we have today to help our agencies be more impactful with our carriers, match the right carriers up with the right agencies, help them grow together. So it's a win-win proposition for them. But the other thing that we've also done is we're building out new sort of data testing and identifying more data sets that we can use between our member agencies and our carriers that will allow us to find new areas to grow, whether it's a new product to grow in, or whether it's geographies that we can focus on and grow together, or even developing new products for our member agencies, giving them something that gives them something unique in their marketplace. And so the partner that's providing the product wins on that. And obviously the agency that's utilizing those products win on that as well. And we can't get there without sort of expanding our data capabilities. And we've had some really successful pilots in this area. We have agencies that are willing to sort of put themselves out there and participate in these things. And that's a real change, not just in our organization, but sort of in the industry, how we can sort of collaborate between agencies and SIAA and carriers to create revenue opportunities and the ability to write more business and develop new books of business across the ecosystem as well. And so those are a big deal. I mean, those are a different mission and commitment, certainly than we've ever had, but also that other organizations have ever had as well.
Well, I have to say that your comments certainly stress that rebranding is not simply about the logo and colors, as you talk about the changes of the organization relative to itself and the industry. But I want to come back to a minute, if I could, to the comment you made regarding we started internally. SIA started internally. How has or is the internal culture of SIAA evolving as part of this rebranding?
Yeah, that's actually a funny question. And what I would do is I would actually reverse my answer on that one. And I would tell you that the rebranding was more a result of the change in the culture and the values versus the culture and the values being changed with the rebranding. And so, we, like I said a minute ago, we've become a people first culture, whether it is our own staff members or the ones in our master agencies around the country, or our over 20,000 employees in our member agencies, or the carrier folks that we do business with. But when you look internally here at us as an organization, the last 2 years, we've grown our staff 285%. And this is at a time where we hear all the challenges around remote work, and people don't want to work and they're not willing to make the commitment, and I can't find anybody. And we've grown our staff 285%. And so, that's hard to onboard, whether these people came in through acquisitions or as new hires, as a lot of them were. It's hard to onboard and share the values of an organization and build a culture. And so we made a concerted effort 2 years ago to really focus on our staff, build a modern work environment, develop a culture, and then give people an opportunity to participate in that culture through collaboration and through career building, and really creating a work environment where people feel appreciated, they want to come to work, they see that they make a difference. In that process, during all of that growth and all of those new people coming into our organization, our staff actually voted and helped get certified as a great place to work. And so with all of that change and all of that growth, that's a big accomplishment for us in the last 2 years. And I think that's actually a lot of what drove the brand change, is the people here that come in here and live in the ecosystem of SIAA day in and day out. They saw the change, and they saw the culture and the collaboration and the career opportunities that we're doing here. And that was sort of the impetus for us to go out and really be much more aggressive in the marketplace around technology and data and analytics and all of the other things that we're doing as we change the culture to support people that do business with us. And so I think internally, it was where the sort of tidal wave of, hey, the old brand doesn't really fit what we do. We need a new brand. It came from the internal side. So the rebranding is more of a reflection on the values and culture the changes in the value and culture that have already happened in the last 2 years versus those are going to happen with the rebrand. So, I like to say that we've already accomplished a lot of these things as we move forward with it.
And I follow that logic. I'm wondering, as you talk about that, in what ways do you think that this rebranding will better reflect these changes, the in terms of even your staffing internally, the types of things you're focusing on, data, et cetera? How is the brand going to better reflect these things to its members, its prospective members, its strategic partners and stakeholders?
Yeah. So, look, we live and breathe, this business and this model. And we've obviously seen these changes from this inside out. We're not foolish enough to think that anybody's going to look at our new logo and our new brand and say, wow, that's a completely different business, right? Wow, look how SIAA has changed. And so, I mentioned this before, the rebrand, it's a fresh packaging. On a business and a business model that has been re-energized, that's focused on the future. And really, ultimately, the rebranding, we're hoping will get people to look at us and take the time to understand that we are a business that is continuing to execute. We're continuing to evolve. We've been around for a long time, but we're an organization that has always evolved. And now that evolution is sort of going into hyperdrive right now. And that we want to be leading the changes in the independent agency distribution channel. And so I think our constituencies, whether it's members or prospective members or partners or employees or stakeholders, they will see over time that this is a much different and a forward-thinking business that's looking to make another huge impact on the industry as we have in the past. And so, no one's going to, wake up the day the brand rolled out, and say, hey, this is a completely different organization. But I think starting with that mission that I keep referencing, which is making a difference in people's lives by helping them build successful careers and businesses, understanding that that is our staff and that is our members and that's even our carrier relationships. And, part of the rebranding is really, like I said, walking the walk and talking the talk. But if we act as I believe we should, which is servants to those that we can help or we can enable within the industry, the brand will represent an organization that is helping everybody that we do business with be successful. And it will ultimately, that brand change, if we deliver on our promises and we execute on our strategy, it will ultimately represent to others what it represents to us.
Well, there's a lot there, and it's funny. I recently was interviewed for an article myself, and we talked a little bit about the brand change there. And my comment was when asked, when did you know it's time to rebrand? And it was more along the lines of what does that mean in terms of independent insurance agents? And my attitude was that over time, they grow, people grow. That was the analogy. And you get to a certain point where you kind of don't recognize yourself anymore. And when that happens, then it's time for a rebrand. And it sounds to me, because my next prepared question was, how do you see this rebranding impacting the growth and evolution of SIAA? And what I'm hearing is, no, we've grown, we've committed to continue to grow and evolve, and that's what's driving the brand change.
Yeah, I think the question about how did you know is a great one. I think mine's even a little more simple than yours. I looked at the logo one day and went, ugh. And so, because it had just been around for so long. And I think it's sort of, again, even though we know that we've evolved as an organization, it was representing something that was old and it had been sort of institutionally around in the industry. Here's what I'll say about our brand as I think about it. This is our rebranding. This is our starting gun, right? If we were to sort of correlate this to either a road race or track and field, this is our starting gun. And so we didn't show up at the track or we didn't show up at the course and say, hey, we're going to jump right in and run a 5K or a 10K or a sprint or whatever. We've been training, we've been practicing, we've been working to be our best. What's the old saying that you fall to your highest level of preparedness. And so, we take a look at this and realize that when the gun goes off, or when it went off relative to the brand launch, and this will happen over the next several weeks or months, when the brand was launched, we're coming out of the gate and we're performing at the level that we prepared for. We're not just starting out with somebody that wasn't prepared for this. We trained, we worked out, we improved ourselves, we got our minds and our bodies in shape for what the business was going to look like. And so as the brand is released, we're finding our stride, not just starting to change. And so I'll say it again. I think the brand and the brand release is sort of the repackaging of we're walking the walk, we're talking the talk. We've prepared ourselves to be a bigger and a better and a stronger organization, to be leaders for those that participate across the organization. The starting gun's gone off, but we're prepared to be in the lead as we run the race.
Gotcha. So that being said, what kinds of things did you put in place? What kinds of things did you do to make sure that, for example, your internal teams were on board with what the organization was attempting to accomplish as part of that process? For example, I would assume that the value proposition has been altered based on what the organization has evolved into today. What kinds of things did you provide to the team and to your member agencies or your master agencies and other stakeholders to help with that process?
And so the way you asked the question about what did we provide sort of represents a top-down type initiative, and so I would go back even before the brand rollout and rebranding to the fact that this was a bottom-up initiative. It was including folks, whether it's our staff members or leaders here in the organization, or folks across our master agencies or our member agencies around the country, including a subset of those folks, to get them to help us understand how they view us. And these were people that had a decent view on the inside about what we're doing and how we're changing. And so I think it started with them telling us what we should be saying and then interpreting what we're doing on how that will reflect a brand. And then when you take that and you spin it around and you go through all these iterative processes, and then you can take it back out both internally and then externally. And so, internally, we've overshared. We've shared updates in every step of the process, and we've shared silly things like new vernacular that we're going to use. We've been using new mission statements and new value propositions and new, who and why and what we do, why we do what we do over the last year. And so this brand and all of those things and the core values sort of come together ultimately. And so the teams have been part of that. We've also treated and are continuing to treat the folks across our master agencies. And so there's about 450, team members across SIAA's master agencies around the country. And we've been treating them like they're our own internal team. So we're feeding the brand and the changing and the changing and vocabulary and position statements. We've been sharing it with them as well to make sure that they're part of it. The average SIAA master agency has been with us for 22 years. And so why wouldn't we treat them like they're one of us? And so I think that that's sort of helped us with that collaborative approach of people first, in that we've been communicating to the people instead of waiting to do one sort of big release internally to, however many people work across SIAA and the master agencies and within our own internal organization. They've been part of it throughout the whole process in sort of an open, communicative way.
Sure. And that sounds like that would be critical to the success of the overall launch, even though it's going to take a little bit of time.
That's right.
As I look at this, I'm thinking that one of the things that kept me most, up at night would be potentially the loss of brand equity. And that remains to be seen. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, what's the one thing that you want to accomplish? I mean, there's a great deal going on here in terms of the brand itself, and the organization, your internal teams, just the entire organization, to your point, has evolved like well beyond recognition in terms of where it is today from where it was a couple of years ago. But if there's one thing that you could isolate that you want to accomplish through this rebranding, what would that be?
Yeah, and the one thing question is always the hardest for somebody like me that's sort of got a whole bunch of initiatives and juggling a whole bunch of different things. And so, I guess I would start with and I will get you to one thing, but I would start with the fact that this is the greatest time to be an independent agency. It's the greatest time for our carrier folks that are listening to this to be in the independent agency channel. And so we're excited to be change leaders, and we're excited to have a brand that's going to reflect not just the journey that we've been on, but the really exciting and aggressive journey that we're about to sort of head down the path on as well. And so when I think about the audience looking at the brand, I want them to give us another look. I want them to look at the organization and be inquisitive and say, what are they doing that's different? And to challenge us and to ask us those things, and to see that we're not just evolving, but we're leading, we're embracing change. For the people we do business with, we're filtering all of the noise and helping our agents and our staff members and our carriers, all the people in the ecosystem, build this successful career in business. And so, we could talk about how the brand reflects this initiative or that initiative, whether it's technology or whether it's working in the carriers or whether it's data or whether it's our core values. Really, to me, it's give us a look, be inquisitive, ask what we're doing, and then participate in the change that we're excited to be leaders in as the industry continues to evolve.
Gotcha. So actually, one last follow-up question, if I may. I've heard you talk about a focus on data technology. I've heard you talk about a focus on people. We've talked about humanizing the brand, so to speak. To some, that may seem counterintuitive. How would you respond to that?
We're in a unique time right now. I'm trying to figure out sort of the correct context to give this to. I wrote a book a couple of years ago called the Insurance Agency 4.0. And the reference to the 4.0 was that we're in the fourth industrial revolution. And the fourth industrial revolution, if you look it up or Google it or try and understand it a little bit, is the fact that we are now into data and the Internet of Things and, making people more efficient and more effective. Instead of having people do the mundane tasks, they're actually doing the more meaningful tasks. I think part of the example of that is, there are people still in factories, but they're running the machines and the computers, not drilling in the bolts and doing the work and doing the labor now. And so, the Internet of Things and data and analytics, what it really does is it helps organizations, it helps people elevate their careers. It helps them find that next path. It helps them spend more time with human interactions instead of with process interactions. And so at the risk of being accused of promoting the book, because I'm not at this point now, several years later, data and technology and a focus on people do come together because it helps us be more effective. It helps us be more efficient. It helps us focus on interpersonal skills. We can work on collaborating and we can work on culture versus working just on process or using the technology just to sort of check the box versus using it to make us more efficient and more effective. And so the people piece, data, using technology, even things like AI, the idea behind all of that, although AI can be a little scary, that's for a different podcast. Even the idea behind all of that is that people will have more time for human interactions, whether we're providing services or whether it's just more time for us to spend in this current employment and employee environment, more time to spend doing recreational activities or spending time with friends or in a lot of our instances with families and our kids. So sure. I think that's the big difference there is I think it helps us create a quality of life across the whether it's within our own member agencies or whether it's with our own staff moving forward.
I think maybe more than anyone thought of that kind of is the heart of the brand in some ways. So I put that out there. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. So is there anything else that you would want to touch on relative to the brand, the new brand, the branding process, the future of the brand before we close?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would touch on is it's sort of an interesting exercise now that we've gone through it for business owners or leadership teams in businesses to take a step back and just look at how their brand reflects who they are and what they are. And as we've gone through the process, and like I said, as we included outside parties to give us our own feedback, the opinions and the views, I think, were very heartening to us. But I think they were very educated as well. And if people are looking to take on a rebranding initiative and think about, especially independent agencies, think about how they want to be viewed in their community. And I always say a community may be an online or a digital community, or it may be your physical community. It's not a horrible exercise to do sort of a brand inventory and figure out if that's a way to move forward. Do you want to look like yesteryear's insurance agency, or do you want to look like the future year's independent agency? And I what I've learned personally from this, even though I've been here for a really long time, is sort of that brand inventory and check-in is it's pretty healthy to do. And so I would urge people to just spend a little time on it and see what happens.
That makes sense. So, Matt, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. Our guest today has been Matt Masiello, Chief Executive Officer at SIAA. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Insurance Agents Talk Shop. I'm Doug Coombs, Chief Marketing Officer at SIAA. To learn more about SIAA, the Agent Alliance, and also the largest alliance of independent insurance agencies in the U.S., please visit SIAA.com. Thank you. And thanks again, Matt.
Thank you, Doug.